Hello, glad to be back. Apologies for the late start. I had several annoying mishaps. um, so we're going to start out spinning some more of the wool that we were working on. It's beautiful stuff. Just to sort of get warmed up because I haven't done any spinning today. And I do want to make some progress on this. It's been going a lot better than I anticipated, actually. Like it's a lot finer and drafting fairly evenly. So I've just been pulling strips off of this batt, and that's been working pretty well. So we're going to keep doing that for sure. I did have the camera focused on my bobbin last time, but then it was also really washed out because of the sunlight. And if anything, it would be even more washed out today because it's a lot brighter. I have my window open, so I'm not really like 14 streams in, and I have yet to ascertain the best place to stream in my apartment, which is very small and only has like 3 possible places I could stream. So I don't know. I'm sure I'll figure it out. If you have any opinions, please do let me know. But either way, you know, spinning is spinning. All right. So I'm spinning this stuff worsted and quite thin to try and get a nice impressive yardage out of it, which I'm sure won't happen because it's almost exactly 1 ounce / 28 grams. It's a little bit short, but not too much. But you know, no matter how fine you spin, 1 ounce is not, it doesn't take you very far. Even if you're spinning like thread or something. It'll take you a ways, but then when you try and make something with it, that's when you realize you actually don't have that much. So we'll see. And I'm also spinning it fairly thin so that I can chain ply it, if I remember correctly. That's the goal anyway. I don't know if we will do that, but that's the goal. Now, as is implied by the description and the title and everything, my cotton finally came in. I say finally, it's actually a day early, so I should be more grateful for that, honestly. But anyway, it arrived. I haven't had any time to play with it at all because I grabbed it like when I got back from work, and I took my cat for a walk, which took a while, and then multiple other annoying things happened, such as trying and failing to press tofu, which should not be as hard as it is at the moment. It's fallen over like 5 or 6 times, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's undoubtedly going to fall over again. I don't understand why or how, but I know I'm very annoyed, and I might have to like buy a tofu press, I guess. I was using my roommates for 2 years while I lived there, and I never pressed tofu before that. And now that I'm trying to press tofu without that, having moved, I'm having a bad time. It's like it just falls over all the time. I don't know why. I think it might be because it's a half block. When I bought it, it was like one normal block, but it was cut into 2 portions and separated in the container, which, I mean, I could take or leave that, but really I could leave that now that I'm seeing that it's making it fall over all the time. I think it's because it's pretty small, so it doesn't really balance. But anyway, that took about 20 minutes to get nowhere with that. And then I was also looking for my other cotton because I saved a small handful of the ginned cotton that I've been working with in the past because I wanted to do a bit of a compare and contrast. I don't know exactly how much that would show me because I haven't worked with very much ginned cotton overall. So, but nonetheless, I wanted to just to sort of, get my hat in the ring of understanding cotton. But I couldn't find it anywhere, which is shocking because again, my apartment is tiny. There's nowhere else it could be other than the places that I checked. And I know exactly where I put it, and it's not there. So that also took a while to figure that one out. Since I couldn't find it, and I did try for quite a while, so I'm sure that means that I will find it either midstream or the second that I end the stream. But since I couldn't find it when I started the stream, we're not going to be doing a compare and contrast, obviously, because I don't have it. We're just gonna test it out, I think, and then we'll compare it later when I can find it, probably. Looking at it, I can already see it has an awful lot more seeds, like bits of seed in it, than my other ginned cotton, which kind of worries me. But, we will make do. Even if it ends up with tons of bits, it'll still make a good blanket, I think. Like the linen blanket that I made has a ton of chaff in it. So like the actual stalk of the flax plant, there's tons of that in it. And I could not remove all of it, and I honestly stopped trying pretty quickly. And I never notice it. So like it's a soft blanket despite that. Yeah, so I think it'll be fine. But it will annoy me. It'll probably annoy me a lot, honestly. I don't know. One other consideration is that, so I've been working with that Southdown and flax blend that I finished up on stream recently, and I spun it and plied it in the same direction that I was planning on spinning and plying this cotton, which is to ply it counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, if you say it that way. That was the plan. Now that I'm working with that yarn, I'm trying to knit with it, I'm realizing that it's untwisting quite a lot. I rarely ply my yarns or spin my yarns that way. I pretty consistently don't do that. Actually, I think I might have said it backwards. Let's see. So this is wool, and I'm spinning it clockwise. Right, I'm gonna apply it counterclockwise. So actually, it's the cotton and the flax that I would ply clockwise. That's what it is. I have a really hard time with those directions. Anyway, it's been untwisting a lot, and I think I'm going to knit the blanket. I imagine, but whatever I do with it, I think I'm gonna have to plan that out maybe a little more than I normally would. Like if I'm gonna knit it, then I need to add more ply twist so that when it untwists a bit, it gets to a decent consistency instead of starting at a decent consistency and unplying itself. And if I'm going to crochet it, which I don't really want to do because it does use an awful lot of yarn. And for a blanket, that means a lot of yarn. So, but if I do crochet it, then I probably want to go a little bit lighter on the ply twist, just to accommodate that. So I think what's going to happen is that I'm going to make a series of samples, each being spun and plied, maybe different ways, and then I'll try knitting with them and crocheting with them and figuring out what works best. And I'm also quite curious how cotton is affected by spinning it the other way, because I haven't ever done that. Like I didn't really want to tempt fate, but now I have 2 pounds. Actually, I weighed it. I have slightly over 2 pounds, but I have about 2 pounds of this cotton, and I don't want to spin up 2 pounds of it and then it sucks, because I've played that game before and I lost it. I don't want to do that again. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes here by actually planning out and sampling for big projects this time. So that's the idea. Is today we're probably not going to be sampling for the blanket necessarily. I think it's more likely that I'll just be sampling the cotton in general, because there's not a huge point in sampling it until I've like really figured out how to spin it, because my samples won't be great, you know? Like I'm still on the learning to thick spin cotton phase. And I don't know how long that'll last. Hopefully not too long. Hopefully it won't use up too much yarn or too much fiber. But yeah, that's the idea. Either way, I do want to sink my teeth in. I also want to spin at least a couple of strips off this batt to give myself time to warm up and maybe give viewers a bit of time to trickle in. And I don't know. Additionally, I just feel like working with color at this exact moment, and I don't want to do anything really frustrating because I just had a very frustrating series of things happen, as you heard. So yeah, we're relaxing right now. By the way, I was looking at the cotton that I applied. I think that was yesterday's stream. I don't know. Whenever we were applying that barber pole green and white cotton, and it is so insanely underplied. I've never seen a yarn that I've underplied so badly, except I guess when I was learning. I probably underplied it really badly back then. But oh my god, it's so bad. I'm gonna have to run it through the wheel again, honestly, or something, just to add a bit more ply twist, because it does not really look super usable right now. It's like the saddest, limpest ply I've ever seen in my life, which is kind of shocking. I don't know what I did wrong there, but several things. I did many things wrong there. I don't know which one is responsible for making me mess up to that extent. That said, though, it isn't super uneven. Like, it could be worse in that regard. It's just that the ply twist is, like, kind of pathetic. So I think really what needs to happen there is I just need to, like, get better and faster at drafting it, because clearly spinning it on the lowest whorl leads to me woefully underspinning and underplying it. But if I go to a higher whorl, then it's just it's going way too fast for me to actually draft. So yeah, I think I just need to get good, basically. I'm sure that will happen sooner or later. Chuck is all tuckered out from her walk, which was actually a very short walk. They usually are. There's a lot of dogs being walked in the area. Like anytime it's a nice day, which is when I take her out for her walks, you can pretty much guarantee that several people will also be taking their dogs on a walk in that exact area. And that really freaks her out. So we usually don't get to go very far before we're interrupted by people's dogs. But we got about halfway down the block. And she ate a lot of grass and sniffed a lot of things and tried to eat a beetle before I stopped her. So obviously absolutely exhausting. God, yeah, she looks very tired. It's very cute though. I think she's finally sort of getting more comfortable with that. I've only recently started taking her on walks in the last 4 or 5 months. And before that, she never wore a harness, and she would just go outside when she felt like it in the yard, and then come back inside when she felt like it. But Now that's not really possible. So I take her on walks, and she freaks out horribly on the elevator and in the lobby, and then on the street also. And when I get to the back alley where we actually walk, I put her down, and she can explore a little. And it's away from the noise of the cars, which I think is the main thing she really hates. And she wasn't as freaked out this time. So I think that's good progress, you know. I don't want it to be super stressful for her. She's just inexplicably very stressed out by several things. I don't know, it's pretty relatable, honestly. I too am inexplicably stressed out by several things most of the time. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this yarn. I will say that. Sometimes I have, you know, a bit of an inkling or at least a couple ideas while I'm spinning it or blending it, but at the moment I haven't really thought of much. Like I said, there's not much you can do with 1 ounce of yarn, even if it's quite fine. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll probably pair well with something. I guess I have a fair number of fine wool yarns that I have not done anything with. So maybe I'd go with one of those. Or maybe I'll give it away or something like that. It's not particularly soft. In fact, at points it's kind of scratchy. I'm sure that applying it will help. And of course, washing it tends to soften things quite a bit. So that'll probably help. I could also maybe spin another ply and try and make that one softer. And then mix them together, or not mix them, ply them together. And then I suppose what I would end up with would be twice as much yarn plus a softer yarn. So maybe I will do that. We'll have to see. One of the reasons I wanted to chain ply it was because I want to try and keep the color preservation and the stripes and everything. And I think that would look really cool. I can't really do that if I ply it with something else. Even if I apply it with like a solid color, it does remove like pretty much all of the stripiness. You'll get a striped barber pole, but the effect is just a lot less pronounced. I'm sure it's one of those things that I'll decide. Oh my god, the tofu is gonna get so messed up. Oh, I'm sure I'll decide when I get there. At the moment, I have the world's most fucked up looking tofu to worry about. I also dropped it in the sink. That's actually the part that really was upsetting, was that after I tried and failed to balance something on it for more than about 5 minutes without it just falling, it decided that not only was it going to fall, but it was going to fall into the sink. Which, like, I did just clean it, but that doesn't make me feel very much better. I don't know. Hello. This is not cotton, no. We started off with wool. And I just wanted to warm up a little because if my tofu mishaps, I don't want to start spinning something really hard while I'm very annoyed about that still. So now at the moment, we are working on this batt. And let me turn it around so you can see the yarn that we've got so far. I was kind of hoping that that would be darker or less washed out. I don't know. I'm not sure how well you can see the colors, but yeah, we're spinning it quite fine and just sort of getting warmed up a little and stressing about my tofu. I think once I finish this little handful though, I just got about that much left. Once I finish this little handful, I will move on to the cotton, at least for a bit. And thank you. I'm glad you like the colors. It's like mostly green, but then quite a bit of yellow and white and a little bit of blue. I'm very curious how it will look once it's plied, because at the moment I think it looks nice, but I also can't see an awful lot of the colors. It would get covered up by the other yarn on the bottom, so you don't really get to see your full yarn until it's plied and schemed, really. So. That was an interesting creak, and there's more of this creak. Okay, I'm not a fan of that noise, so let me see if I can debug a little. I don't know. Sometimes it does just creak for a little bit, and then it sorts itself out eventually. But I'm hoping we can make this work faster than eventually. So I am just gonna oil what I can, which is not much, truthfully. And honestly, it kind of sounds like something on the footman is squeaking. I'm not sure what, though. I don't know. I doubt that helped, but let's see if it did. And I think also it's reduced the tension over here. Okay. It might also be the angle at which I'm treadling that can cause squeaking sometimes if it's really off. I think we're good. Oh, I am noticing, though, that the drive band is like all the way on one side of the spinning wheel, and that usually is not conducive to spinning well. So once you press tofu with an almost full square-shaped oil bottle and it fell, you recommend to not do that. Well, that makes me feel somewhat better. And noted, I started out with a hammer because that was the heaviest thing I could find, and I was not thinking about weight distribution. And I think you can guess how that went. It was very loud when it fell, but at least it wasn't full of liquid. God. Yeah, noted to not try doing that. I might cave and just buy a tofu press. But the thing is, I don't eat tofu that often. I make seitan, and that's the protein I eat most of the time. So it kind of feels like a waste, but also, like, I have had such a bad time trying to press this stupid tofu. So I don't know, it might be necessary. We'll have to see. Yeah, I think it might have been the angle at which I was treadling, and then hopefully whatever is making it want to squeak other than that will just sort of resolve itself. That's often how it goes. It's like with cars, sometimes there's like a horrible, horrible noise, and then it magically goes away and you don't have to do anything. That's not always the case, but it's sometimes the case. Same thing with powered wheelchairs, actually, which is what I have. It's a electric wheelchair, I guess. It does the same thing. Like, it'll start making a horrible noise, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to get stranded. This is so terrifying. And then it'll just sort of resolve itself several days later. I don't really understand why, but much better than it breaking down as often as it sounds like it's going to break down, which is frequently, very frequently. It is a strange squeak, yeah. I don't enjoy it. That's cool that you also make seitan. I don't know very many people who make seitan, but it's so good. And it's so easy too. Like, yeah, I don't know. Seitan's great. It's pretty much my only source of protein at the moment because it is very cheap to make if you put inaccurate bin numbers on things, which I sometimes do, and also make your own vegetable broth, which is what I do. That's the other big cost, is the vegetable broth. So, all right, I think we're gonna leave this here. The only thing is, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess I'm gonna have to remove the bobbin because I'm gonna spin something else. So that's a little annoying, but it's fine. It's mostly just that when it's a yarn this fine, I don't necessarily want to lose track of the end because I have lost it permanently once or twice doing that. But I think we will be okay. I'll just make it obvious where it is. All right. Yeah, I think that's looking nice, honestly. It's very fine and it's very compact and fairly even. I've done more even ones, but that's pretty good. Anyway, we'll just let that be for now. So I was planning on doing a comparison between this new cotton and the cotton that I was using, but I couldn't find that after looking for a very long time. So we're not gonna. And instead, we're just going to do, just sort of test it out. We'll see what we're getting into. So here is the 2 pounds of cotton. There's a lot, and I'm very happy with it. And it's still expanding a little. Like it was a lot flatter when I started. So, and then I'm going to take some close-up photos and put them on my blog at some point because I don't think you can necessarily see the detail. But one thing I've noticed is there's quite a bit of seed bits in it. So that might be a problem, but we'll see. It's pretty soft. I haven't tested the staple length. I actually haven't played with this at all yet. I've just been letting it breathe a little after I opened it up. So I have not gotten to test much of anything. It's got a pretty damn short staple length, which is kind of disappointing. But wow, yeah, so that's the staple length. That is, I don't know, if I had to guess, maybe 3/4 of an inch. It's not like you can't see the exact staple length necessarily, but because like the ends get wispy and then that makes it hard to tell. But it looks like the bulk of it is maybe 3/4 of an inch or I don't know, 1.5 centimeters, 1 centimeter, something like that. So it's very short. But that doesn't mean it's unusable. We'll have to see. I don't think the thing that makes that terrible cotton roving so terrible is the fact that it's super short. I think it's more the fact that the prep just kind of, like when you prepare it that way, you kind of stretch out the fibers and destroy them a bit. That's my guess. So we'll have to see. I'm a little nervous. I just bought 2 pounds of very hard to spin cotton. Fingers crossed that that's not the case. You also recently got 2 pounds of cotton, except it was top. And you also finally made a skein that is yarn and not falling apart or cordage. That's awesome. Congrats. I don't know how you managed to spin 2 pounds of cotton top, or I guess you probably haven't spun that much yet, but oh my gosh, cotton top is so hard to spin. So kudos to you on getting a nice skein out of it. That's the hard part. Now, I'm not sure how much the sound of my carding makes it impossible to tell what I'm saying, but let me know if you can't hear anything. So I've been experimenting with the technique, and I still haven't fully figured it out, but I'm getting better. And it seems like the trick is mostly to just like get the cards in there and then just pull it straight off, which is a little bit easier said than done. With wool, I typically like whack it on pretty hard to get the teeth embedded and then pull out. And that works quite well for me for wool, but does not work at all for cotton, as I learned. So, oh good, it's okay. Glad to hear. You've spun just a little bit so far. Well, congrats on getting a good skein out of a little bit. That is also very impressive. I think it's going to take me a while to get a good skein out of this stuff, because I'm just so bad at thick spinning cotton. It's really hard for me, and I'm trying to thick spin it. So I finally figured out spinning cotton thread. That one, I think I'm good to go, and I'm very happy with my results. But the thicker stuff is just so much harder for some reason. So I feel like I've got it to a pretty good point. It's pretty consistent. It's looking pretty nice. So we're gonna see if this is enough. We're gonna try pulling it off. Do I have cotton cards or am I doing this on wool cards? These are cotton cards. I only just got a pair of cotton cards and I'm very happy to have them. I think they're 200 teeth per inch. Although that said, they're not like branded as cotton cards. They're just wool cards with a really high TPI, but I feel like that's the main difference, as far as I know. Like you wouldn't really use this TPI for wool, except in very specific circumstances. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're cotton cards as far as I know. It is so many teeth, yeah. My normal, like my wool cards are 70 teeth per inch. So it's more than double. It's almost triple actually. Cashmere, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Cashmere, maybe mohair if you really hate yourself. You can work mohair on normal cards, but honestly, it's best on hand combs. If you're going to go to the trouble and expense of buying cotton cards for mohair at that point, you're probably making a mistake. Might as well just buy combs. So one thing that is very much affected by how long the staple length is how easily you can make a puni. Like when you're doing this whole pull and draft and roll thing, the longer the staple length, the easier it is. And the shorter the staple length, the harder it is. And this is pretty hard. But it's not impossible. There's so much of cotton, like learning about cotton that I've done where it actually was kind of impossible. So the fact that this is doable, if difficult, is still a win in my book. Okay. It doesn't look too bad. So here it is. I mean, I haven't taken it off the knitting needles I wound it around yet. Which, speaking of, I've been really meaning to look into whether or not there is something better I can use, because these kind of suck. And I don't want to keep using them. They hurt my hands. Okay, and then here's what it looks like. You can see it's already bowing a little bit. But, yeah. Is cotton the shortest popular fiber? I think that really depends on where you are. I mean, in some places, cotton is the most popular fiber, period. For example, India. Most people learn to spin on cotton, as far as I'm aware. In the US, I don't think cotton is very frequently spun by anyone. Honestly, I feel like there are probably some short wool breeds that are more commonly spun than cotton that are shorter, or comparably short. So it's a hard question to answer, really. Um, it just depends on your region, but it's up there. Like it's one of the better known for sure, and um, it's like it's fairly available to try. I think most people just they get as far as trying it, and then it's very hard, and they give up, which is what I've done several times. Although this time I'm sticking with it. It's so dense, yeah. You've been wishing you had cotton cards. You think it'd probably be easier on long draw? Yeah, that, I mean, it is so much easier. One piece of advice I have, if you're interested, is do not go for the biggest size because they get more expensive the bigger the size of cards are. And I got the biggest one thinking that it would be the same size as my wool cards, which to compare, hang on, these are my wool cards, and this is my cotton card. So these I think are student sized. Um, I guess I thought they were full sized, but these are full sized, so these must be student sized. And honestly, this student size is just great for rollags, and it's good for poonies too. The wider it is, the harder it is to like do the actual rolling part. And honestly, if I could buy them again, I would have gotten the smallest size, I think, because I bet it would be even easier, and I don't think it would really take any longer. So that would significantly reduce the cost. Like if I had gotten the student size with the minis, it would have been like half the cost, really. With wool, you roll the rollag off with the other card. Can you do that with cotton? You might be able to, but it would result in a very different prep. The fact that you are pulling it, like pulling and drafting it out, oh, well, that sucks. Hang on. It took my little pre-drafted bit with it too. The fact that you're pulling it out and drafting it a little bit as you work, God damn it, it really makes it way more dense. Like that's why it's so dense, is because of that. And if I didn't do that, it would not be anywhere near as dense. So it's fairly important. I do want to try doing that actually. I was kind of thinking of it last time I was carding cotton. I just haven't worked up the nerve. I feel like it's going to go really badly for me. That's my guess. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. You find even your wool cards really tiring and rough on your joints, so you would really prefer little ones. Yeah, same here. I like one of the reasons I'm getting into cotton is because I can't really prepare most of my wool anymore. And cotton seems to be a bit easier to prepare. But if I had gone for the minis, it would have been way easier. And yeah, I really regret that. So learn from my mistakes. Go for the minis. Your joints will thank you. Yeah. Okay. Attempt 2, and hopefully it won't do what it just did last time. So far, what I've noticed with cotton, including this cotton, is that if I take the time to pre-draft it, it's actually pretty easy to get the width that I want consistently. The problem is that pre-drafting it is slow as fuck, and that is not how I'm going to spin 2 pounds of cotton. So I might end up just practicing some pre-drafting if I'm having a really hard time with this stuff, and sort of getting to a point where I can pre-draft quickly and then, try and translate that into drafting quickly. But yeah, I think that practicing more of that might help a lot. The problem is, like, as soon as I actually start drafting normally, you will see I'm much fucking worse. much worse at it. So yeah, I don't know. Learning cotton has definitely been different than learning wool was, and different than learning linen as well. They're all such different fibers that the techniques that are helpful for learning them seem to change each time. Whereas like learning to spin a different breed of wool than the one that you usually do is not nearly so alien. Okay, finally. All right. So I want this on the bigger whorl, but I also want to draft quickly. Need to really work on, or not draft quickly, I need to treadle quickly so that I get more twist in there, because yeah, the last one was really bad. And we're also gonna be doing spinning it counterclockwise and plying it clockwise, which is what I typically do for wool. We're gonna keep doing that. No, I'm sorry, what I typically do for cotton and the opposite of what I do for wool. So I'm gonna keep giving the long draw thing a try, because I do think that's the key here. I'm just, it's hard. But this is, okay, this is working. That's the best I've done so far. Maybe I'm just being optimistic. I need to wait before I get my hopes up. Linen is your true nemesis, you think? I know what you mean. But I think if you can learn cotton, you can definitely learn linen. Oh, that was the wrong way. Cotton is so much harder, in my opinion. They both require a lot of, practice and effort, but I don't know. I found linen to be more forgiving, honestly. You'll get there, I'm sure. Okay. Is there a reason you spin it opposite? Well, I've been told to. That's the entire reason I spin it opposite, is that when you look up any guide for how to spin pretty much any plant fiber, you will be advised to spin it the opposite way that you might spin wool. And really, the direction that you spin wool doesn't matter. That part is just preference. But the vast majority of people that I know, so maybe this is just North Americans, but the vast majority of people that I know ply it clockwise. And that's also how I ply it, just because that's how I learned to ply it. And it's sort of like, I don't want to start doing a different thing because I'll forget what I'm doing frequently. So using the muscle memory here really helps me to actually go in the right direction. The reason that's usually given for why you should spin plant fibers the opposite way is that plant fibers simply take the twist easier the other way. Like they actually have a preference, unlike wool. I don't know if that's true. I'm very curious because I've never actually tested it. Like I've done it many times. I've never actually tested it just because I didn't really want to tempt fate. Like I felt like I was already bad enough at what I was doing. I didn't want to also go against the advice that you see literally everywhere. So I didn't. But this time I am going to, because I want to be able to knit with it. And if you ply it counterclockwise while also, if you ply it clockwise while also knitting the way that I do, and really more wrapping the yarn the way that I do, then it untwists as you knit. And I don't like that. I prefer it to add twist when I knit, not untwist. So, yeah. That doesn't apply to cotton as far as you know. I mean, I've seen people say it for both. I've also seen people say it's just bast fibers, which cotton is not a bast fiber. And then I've seen some people say it doesn't matter at all, although that last camp is the least common from what I've seen. Personally, I have no idea. Like, I'm not even gonna guess. I really have no idea, and I'm curious to find out. But it seems like one of those things that is clearly being perpetuated more often than it's being tested. Like the rumors is being perpetuated more often than it's being tested. Because if you ask most spinners what direction to spin linen, they'll have an answer even if they've never spun linen, you know. And like I have an answer and I've never tested it, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious. Is that a way to not mix plant and animal fibers or something? I don't necessarily think it's about that. Because I feel like it's easier to tell by feel than it is to actually look at the yarn and figure out what direction the twist is in, you know? And especially with cotton, you could do a really easy burn test too. I don't know what it is to differentiate. I'm really not sure, honestly. You know, linen in the northern hemisphere should be spun opposite wool because it's a bast fiber and the way it twists with the sun. Interesting. Very interesting. So would that mean that in the southern hemisphere you want to spin it the other way? The idea that it twists with the sun, that I haven't heard. But I could definitely understand if that is the case, and that's really, really cool if so. Which then makes me wonder, like, if you're buying, say, actually, I don't know what side of the hemisphere Egypt is on, so that's embarrassing. But if you buy linen from the southern hemisphere, then theoretically you could spin it the other way and it would be perfect. Very curious. I don't know if I'll ever be able to test that because actually tracking the sources of fiber can be really hard, like the country that it originated in. It can be really quite difficult. But that is an interesting idea, at least. I've heard you should spin the other way in the southern hemisphere, but I honestly don't know. That's very cool. We're going to test the linen, but never got good enough to do it. That's where I'm at, pretty much. Like, I think at this point, I could get away with testing linen like that, because I feel like I'm fine with linen. I mean, I'm probably a bit rusty because I haven't spun any flax in a while, but I think I could, and maybe actually get reliable results. Because that's the main thing, is like when you're already terrible at spinning something, testing something like that is not actually going to tell you anything particularly conclusive. It's probably just going to tell you that you suck. Like that's what I found. All of that said, this fiber is a lot more obliging than my other cotton, and I don't know why. Because it's shorter, and it doesn't necessarily seem like it should be better, but it feels a little better. So I'm really curious to actually test the two side by side because I want to know if it's just that I'm, you know, incrementally better at spinning at thick spinning cotton, or if it is just that this fiber is a little easier to spin. Now, my guess, because the one big difference I've noticed other than the staple length, my guess is that the fact that it's a little bit, what's the word? It feels a little, I actually have no idea how to describe it. Like almost a tiny bit sticky, not to my fingers, but to itself, which is not something I've experienced with cotton before. I wonder if it's been washed, or conversely, if it hasn't been washed and the other stuff was washed. I don't know. But it definitely has like a slightly more almost plasticky feel, which it's not plastic, thankfully. And I'm not really feeling that now that it's been carded, but when I'm just like digging my hands into the massive fiber, it's very noticeable. So I don't know, maybe that helps. Because the thing that makes cotton so hard to spin is the fact that it doesn't stick to itself. And the thing that'll make it easier to spin is getting it to stick to itself, which in this case I'm mostly doing via the friction of the puni, because like that's the whole reason you draft it out basically. While you're rolling it is to make it tighter, and then that tightness adds friction of the fibers, trying to pull against each other while wrapped very tightly. At least that's how I understand it, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. But yeah, I've been wrong before, so who can say? You already know you suck. I'm sure you're better than you think, but that is kind of the flax spinning mood, so I get where you're coming from. Okay, so one very promising puni later, and I'm really happy with how even that was. Like, it wasn't that even, but it's miles more even than what I was getting. Honestly, I don't think there's any way you'll actually be able to see it by looking at the thing. So I'll turn it back around and I'll get back to carding. But yeah, the last cotton that I spun was horrible. I was having I guess not the last cotton I spun, but some of the more recent cotton I've spun, I've just been having a miserable time. And that was really enjoyable, so I'm really happy. I want to show you what it looks like when I pull it off. It sticks to itself a lot more than my other cotton does. And although I'm sure you won't be able to hear it, there is a sound. Quite a strong sound, to me anyway, that I have not heard at any other point when working with cotton. And it's the sort of sound of fibers pulling against each other. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see. And hopefully I find my other cotton soon. God. I'm looking at the tofu right now, and the thing that I have on top of it, which is just a cutting board and then a bowl. The cutting board is just like here's the counter, and it's just like that. God damn it. It's gonna be some terribly pressed tofu. Oh well. That's fine. Not hearing it, but it looks very satisfying. Yeah. I wonder if I can record it on my phone. I don't know if there'd necessarily be any point in that, but I think my phone would pick it up a lot better. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely different in a good way, which is what I was hoping for. Because same as the other stuff could not be in a good way because it was very hard. Have I tried bamboo skewers for pulling the punis off? You find them useful for all kinds of spinning tasks. I've tried it once. Or at least I've tried it once recently that I remember. And what happened was that I could not get the puni off of the bamboo skewer, and I actually just had to throw it away. I mean, it's entirely possible that that was just user error because I was definitely making errors. But that has made me afraid enough that I've just switched back to using my knitting needles because those it'll slide right off of really easily. But bamboo skewers are longer. And I think my sister still has some, so maybe I'll see if I can get some more and just give it a shot. Because I do have the fiber to waste now if I had to. And if it's any better, then I would like to switch to that because I'm not enjoying the needles either, but at least it doesn't get stuck, Too splintery, maybe? I mean, the splinters, I think, are why it caught, is my guess, but also just the fact that it's so much rougher. There was no way I was ever going to get it off. I tried quite hard. Even getting it off while mangling it, because that's what I tried to do eventually. Even that, I couldn't do. I literally just had to throw it all away. But I think it's worth trying, at least once. So I'll ask my sister next time I see her if I can steal some skewers. I think with that last spin, I didn't really encounter any major problems of me not blending it enough or not opening it up enough. Like I wasn't really hitting any snarls. So I don't think I need to go too much further than it just visually looking clear, which it does. So, but I don't know, I also kind of want to try it like ultra processing it, like going over the top, really over the top, just to see if it helps. So maybe I'll indulge that curiosity and I'll do 4 more. And that'll definitely be way more passes than I normally do. And we'll see if there's any real difference. With wool, it feels like there's quite a wide range of like, I don't know, like there's the minimum, you have to do at least this much for it to be spinnable. You have to open it up this much for it to be spinnable. And obviously that threshold changes breed by breed and staple length by staple length and even part of sheep by part of sheep. And then there's also like, there's many stages in between. And then the last stage is like, well, there's no point in continuing because you're not going to do anything new. But like in between, you know, there's some room for variability in how much you want to open it and how much time you want to put into it. And I'm curious if that's the same with cotton or if it's just like it's either spinnable or it's not. I don't know how well I explain that, but yeah, we'll see. I want to see. I had a very long day of explaining things very badly at work, so I wouldn't be shocked if I'm also not explaining things great here. If you ever have like clarifying questions, I'm certainly always happy to try and phrase it better or differently anyway. I wasn't keeping count. I don't know if any of you were keeping count. I wasn't. I'm gonna guess that was the third one. I think it was either 2 or 3, so we'll do 1 more, or maybe 2 more if one of you was counting, which I'm not expecting. But it doesn't feel like anything has really changed. Like I've been able to pick out a little bit more BM, but not much. I am definitely getting cotton in the air and in my nose. So there's that. That would be a compelling reason not to go as far. You think 3, but you're not positive. That was the third. Okay, I'll do 1 more. Both of you say the same thing then. I think you're both right. So as you can probably tell, I'm sort of just like, it's almost like petting it. Like you get the card in there and then just pull straight up. And you have to get it in at an angle because if you just go straight down, hang on. Okay, yeah. If you just go straight down, unless you're on the very edge, it kind of catches on the cards. Which is, it's definitely not how I card wool. Sort of the opposite of how I card wool. But this is what seems to work best for cotton. I was trying a lot of different things. Maybe there's like more ways that also work really well. But lurking and knitting, hello. Glad to have you. Also glad some of you are spinning. That's always fun. It's very nice to spin together. I've been trying to entice the people in my work crafting group that I started to learn spinning. But so far, they all just seem very nervous about it. They're all knitters, crocheters, sewers, and then other very cool things, but I'm the only spinner there, and I feel very lonely. I'm also I think I'm the one who's been both knitting and crocheting the longest, which is crazy to me because I'm also the youngest member. I'm one of the youngest people at my workplace in general, for whatever reason. But ooh, okay, already messed up. Basically, it slipped a little bit out of my hand and pulled too far, and then separated. So we're gonna do one more just to reintegrate this in. I'm also gonna see if I can sort of reorder the fiber. One thing that I've noticed, and honestly, I think this is kind of true, like this is true with wool too, is that you don't want your fiber to be going that close to the end of the cards. You certainly don't want it overhanging because then you're not going to actually process that part and it's going to lead to really messy ends. So I've been trying to be a little bit better about not taking up the whole card. Like when it comes to wool, I don't know, it's so easy to process. I don't necessarily care that much. I don't necessarily have issues. But with cotton, I need all the help I can get. And the messy ends really don't spin up well. So, okay. Attempt 2. Hopefully this will work better. You were spinning most of the day but ran out of prepped fiber and don't feel up to making more right now. Fair. Prepping is hard. That's cool that you were spinning most of the day, though. That sounds like a very enjoyable day. I wonder if the lack of seeing handmade yarn, so comparing the default to commercial yarn, tends to make beginners more nervous than knitting, which is more frequent. Yeah, I think that definitely plays a role. Like when you've already seen people do something a lot, and maybe you see lots of tutorials, and like lots of modern clothes, commercial clothes are knitted, even if it's with very fine yarn. So like you have an idea of what you can make. Whereas spinning is such a foreign concept to like the vast majority of people where I live anyway. Not necessarily true in like more rural parts of the world. Like certainly spinning is alive and well in Peru, for example. But here in the US where I live, not so much. Not so much at all. I know very few spinners compared to the number of knitters and crocheters. And I also, because I spin on the bus a lot, and I knit on the bus a lot too. Like I'm on the bus frequently, and I'm always crafting. So, and like many people recognize the knitting or the crochet, even if they call it the wrong thing, which happens a lot. They still like they know what I'm doing, and oftentimes they, will talk about a relative or a friend who also did that. But with spinning, almost nobody has any idea. Like I can count on one hand the number of people who have been like, "Oh, are you spinning?" So I think like just the recognizability must play quite a big part. Things that you don't know about and that you haven't really seen can be a bit more intimidating for sure. So that one, I'm gonna have to test this again to really know for sure. But that one was an absolute fucking pain to roll up. Like it looks okay now, but when I was doing it, there were all these sections that wouldn't roll, and I wonder if that was over processing it or if I just got unlucky with those. So we'll have to try it again. But this one is bending about the same. I managed to get a little bit more cotton on there, so it's a little bit more stiff, but not much. Not much at all. You have to explain what a spindle is regularly. Yep, same here. It did take you a really long time to come to spinning. You've been knitting for 30 years and spinning for like 3. Wow. That is a very impressively long time to be knitting. That's awesome. But yeah, same. I mean, I got into knitting quicker, or rather, I got into spinning quicker than that. But I don't think I ever would have gotten into spinning before getting into knitting or crochet. And I don't know a lot of people who do. Like, I think it's not super common to get into spinning before you have um, the knowledge of a craft that allows you to use the resulting yarn. I think like getting that yarn is a pretty big incentive if you have plans or specific things you want to spin, and so that in itself can sort of nudge people into spinning because they want to make it a certain yarn. That's why I started. I really wasn't liking the yarn selection at the local Walmart, as you can imagine. I found it very lacking. And I started spinning because I couldn't find any wool yarns that didn't suck. I'm so glad I did. Spinning has been such a massive joy in my life. This one feels a little harder to draft, not too bad, but I think definitely more difficult. So I'm leaning towards the idea that it's possible to overprocess. It is with wool too. You have to really fuck it up. I feel like, at least with the wool that I card. You just couldn't get the hang of drafting on a drop spindle when you tried learning, and now you just don't have time to learn. Yeah, that's fair. Drafting on a drop spindle can be hard. It took me a good 6 months to actually learn how to draft. I made yarn before that, but it was terrible because I had no clue what I was doing, and it took me quite a long time to figure out how to do it. I will say almost everybody I know who has learned with a teacher reports that learning with a teacher helps a ton. So if you know anybody who might be able to teach you, you could probably put a lot less time in and still learn. But I wouldn't have time to learn how to spin now if I didn't already know it. So I do understand what you mean. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely more uneven. That's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that I was over processing it until I actually started trying to roll it up. So we'll do at least one more. I think we ended up with 9 total, is my guess. So we'll do another one with 9 passes after this and see if it's also hard. Maybe I'll do one with 3 passes and one with 9 passes, and then spin the 3 and then the 9. So I can just sort of have a little breather in between and remind myself what it's like with 3. I don't know, we're learning a lot. This is exactly what I learned about the whole getting into new fibers thing. It's different enough that it really is learning. It requires the same amount of, it requires a lot of effort and thought and analysis, but it doesn't, it's not so different that I feel like I'm melting my brain with it. If I put this down and went back to trying to null bending, it would be very different. I'd be having a much worse time because null bending is very, very different from anything I already know how to do. So it's cool. It's like an intermediary between learning a totally new skill and learning getting better at something you already know. Another thing I'm noticing is that this one that I did more passes on, it has more sort of fluffy slubs in there, whereas the other one was more compacted. So I'm almost kind of wondering, what is it like if I do the absolute minimum amount of passes? Is that even easier? We'll have to see. I think I'm doing a slightly better job adding more twist this time because I'm letting myself take my time now that I know the consequences. I think I'm doing better. But you know, it remains to be seen. It's quite possible that I'll finish up this skein and wash it and cry. I'll take a picture of the other cotton skein before I add more twist, just so that you all can see how absolutely sad it looks. I also really, really, really want to sink my teeth into dyeing this. At least like test dyeing. But I don't have any copper mordants, and I haven't even gotten far enough in that process to know what I need to buy. And also, I should wait for payday, so there's that as well. But payday's pretty soon. I don't know. I mean, I have credit cards is the thing, so I don't necessarily have to wait for payday, but it would be intelligent, perhaps. How do you wash cotton skeins? Good question. I don't really know. I just wash them normally. I feel like I looked into this several years ago, and like when I was initially trying to figure out how to spin cotton and didn't get very far. And I didn't really find anything very helpful. And so in the interim, like since then, what I've done is just wash it with really hot water, squeeze it thoroughly, and hang it to dry. I don't think that it needs the same treatment that wool or that linen does, of like boiling and beating it. Like the reason why you need to boil linen is to get the like plant gum off, and you need to beat and abrade it to soften it, and that has quite a big impact. But I don't think cotton has plant gums, as far as I can tell. And or if it does, it's it's fine to stay in there for a bit, because it doesn't. The texture and the color do not really change before and after washing, and you definitely don't want to be distressing it the same way that you do with linen, because cotton is not indestructible like linen is. So there's that. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like really hot water would have a difference. Like if I were to maybe just boil it briefly or steam it or something like that, because we all know that heat affects cotton quite a lot. It causes it to shrink. But I don't know if you can pre-shrink it as a yarn. I don't know. That's also something I should probably research. You just dunked yours in some water. You don't know if that's right. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I do. I think the hot water thing, like it may or may not have an impact, but either way, once it's finished, it's going to be washed in hot water. So I don't think it has a huge impact. Like you kind of know cotton is going to shrink anyway as an object, and you're going to have to take steps to mitigate it anyway. So like, does it matter? I don't know. That's a great question. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Like this is getting easier. And I'm also finally, this is such a thrill, honestly. I'm finally able to do that thing that people who actually know how to spin cotton seem to be able to do, and what they advise, which is that you just pull and add more twists and it sorts itself out. When I was learning to spin cotton the very first time, over 5 years ago now, I think, I tried that and it completely fell apart. It didn't work one iota, and it has not worked at all since. And now it is working, and I'm so happy. I don't know what the hell I'm doing differently, but I'm so happy right now. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. But I do think I might have added not enough twist. Let's see, I'm going to turn it around again. Whatever good it will or won't do. So this first bump, is entirely from the first puni, and then the second bump entirely from the second one, and then I also switched the bobbin over here. I think it's pretty clear that I had more fiber on the second one, and I know that's going to factor in somehow, but I don't yet know. I'm still learning exactly how much you should put on for optimal results, so. It doesn't bloom either, you think? Yeah, I don't think it blooms either, but I also don't necessarily know if there's an actual difference between blooming and shrinking the way that cotton does, because when yarn blooms, it also shrinks. Like it gets thicker and it shrinks, and that's like cotton kind of does that too. So whether or not that's the same process and the same thing happening or not, I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. What did I say I was going to do? We're going to do one with 3 passes and then the next one with 9. And we'll see what that does. And I think I'm gonna prep them one after the other so that I can spin them one after the other, so that there's less of a break. This is so. This is what I needed after today. A very long work day. I mean, they're all the same damn length, which is too long. But nonetheless, sometimes they feel longer than other days. This one, I think I just was very antsy for some reason. That was one. I'm gonna try and keep track this time. I will say I don't think that the other cotton I've carded on these cards has been flying up and getting in my nose. So the fact that this is not thrilling. I'm not allergic to it, thankfully, but it's not, like there's already cat hair all over my apartment and there's already wool all over my apartment. So adding cotton fluff, okay, that was 2, this is 3. Adding cotton fluff is not actually something I wanted to do, but I guess it is what we're doing. I really need to get an actual like air filter that filters out fibers clearly. Maybe this will be the push to actually do it. See, I think I could get away with potentially even 1 pass, and I'm gonna have to try it at some point. Okay, so that's 3. It looks fine. Visually, there's not any difference between, or maybe there's a little difference. There's a little bit more noise here, but not much of a difference between 3 and 9. One thing that I definitely need to improve, one of many things I definitely need to improve, is like I need to come up with a better way to anchor the card. Oh, she sees a crow. She always has to yell at the crows. I need to find a better way to anchor the cards when I'm pulling it off, because having it stay still is really helpful, and it's not doing that at all. There's typically when I'm doing something like this where I need it to stay still, I'm using my blending board, and that is a lot bigger and has more points that I could anchor it. This still requires a lot of concentration, even though I've done a fair few recently. But it is definitely going on easier with fewer gaps. Very little gaps, actually. But still some gaps. So I wonder if just 1 or 2 passes will leave any gaps. Oh, now we have lots of gaps. If you're wondering what I'm talking about when I say gaps, it's this. Hopefully you can see it because I can't really move my thumbs to point. But basically it's just where I'm no longer actually catching hold of that fiber. And the problem is reattaching it once you've got a gap. It can be a bit of a pain, and it's not going to be even. So we already know this one isn't going to be super even, but it is much better than the one with 9 passes was. I feel like they're getting better just as we go either way, because I'm getting more practice, but that's not something I can control for as easy. So, and this one yet again is frowning, is what I've been calling it in my head. It's frowning a little bit. They all are, which is interesting because the other ginned cotton that I had, which has I think almost double the staple length, does not frown like that. It stays pretty rigid as long as I actually made a decent one. Wait, no. No, I'm doing both. What was I thinking? Okay. Let's do the other one. Almost got myself there. Okay. I'm going to try and put on about the same amount, but it's also hard to tell how much I'm putting on, if I'm being honest. Like, it feels a little easier to tell with wool, but maybe it's just that I have quite a bit more practice, several years more practice. Okay. All right, so this one we're doing 9 times. I'm just trying to mitigate how much fiber flies around. The other thing is, like, I'm losing fiber. That's fiber I can't spin once it goes into the air. This is 2. Since I'm doing so many, I'm probably not going to be like quite as careful as I would if I were just doing 1 or 2. So they're going to be a little quick and dirty. Okay, that's 3. No, I just finished 2. This is 3 now. I lost count at 2. This is so embarrassing. My counting skills on full display. That's never a good thing. Okay, I think that was 3 done, so now we're starting 4. That's 4 done. Now we're starting 5. If I'm being honest, even if it somehow turns out that doing this many passes is the best way to do it, I'm not doing that for this entire bag of cotton because it's so much more work. That was 5 done, and I think now I'm starting 6. I'm glad that you all seem to be paying attention because I can't count, as is now very obvious, I'm sure. Also, when you do this many, the fiber, like, it just kind of migrates outward, even if you started with it very much in the center. So that's another thing, like another reason why you might not want to do that. Here, I'm just, hi, Chuck. Why are you back here? Very suspicious. I'm just sort of rearranging it so that it doesn't cause problems for me. Okay, so I think we're starting 7 now. Chuck's scratching her board, so it's going to be loud. That's 7. I'd be shocked if there's any good that will come of anything between or anything past 6. But we'll see. So that was 7 done. I think now I'm on 8. Thank you, Sersha, for paying attention because I'm clearly not. Okay. That was 8. And I think I have 1 more left. I think. I'm going to do one more because I need to reorient this anyway because it's already migrated again. See, part of that, actually probably all of that, is the way that I card because it does this with wool too. Like it always does this. Okay, so last one, and I'm pretty sure this is 9. I wanted 9, yeah. Okay, yes, 9. Yay. Okay, and we got it. And it's very messy looking. Now that I'm looking at it again, there actually is no difference visually. Like absolutely no visual difference at all between 3 and 9 in terms of what it looks like on these. So that means I cannot be trusting what it looks like to tell me anything helpful at all, which I kind of knew already because it hasn't been telling me anything helpful or accurate. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, and then how terrible is this to remove? Is it as bad as the other one that was 9? I mean, obviously I'm being as careful as I can each time. This one's coming off easier. I haven't had any gaps yet. I also have improved my technique a little, I think. All right, now we're getting some gaps. Okay. Quite a bit of VM. I don't know if I'm really allowed to call it VM. Now, I got very little gaps, but the trade-off was that I was not able to put very much tension on it. So this is, yet again, an imperfect test. I think, regrettably, I need to get up real quick because the tofu situation is really bothering me and worrying me. So give me 1 second. I will be right back, okay? Well, give me like 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay. I have given up on trying to press it, and I'm just trying to. It's a fucking trapezoid now. It went so badly. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, so was not able to exert anywhere near as much. I don't know. Drafting pressure, something. I don't know. The whole thing is VM. You know what I mean? You know, I was just thinking about that. Like, that's true. It is all vegetable matter. But there's also like obviously some of it I want in my some of it is what the yarn is made of and some of it is trash. So I can't think of a better term. I've been trying to and I'm just not sure. So I'm spinning the 3 right now, by the way. Yeah, I can't think of a better word for it. If you know like an actual word for the bits you don't want in cotton or in any plant fiber, let me know. VM bad and your VM good. Accurate. All right. Right. This this is going so well. It's making me so happy. Except that bit that didn't go well. This makes up for the fact that I apparently can't press tofu at all. I think I'm gonna have to apply this today, so that I can sort of have like a, first attempt, second attempt, like day by day kind of thing. Because I'm really curious how I improve, like how quickly / slowly I improve, and um, what improves first. Like, can I get it even before I can get it as thick as I want, or the other way around? At the moment, I'm still struggling to get it as thick as I want it to be. And when I try, I kind of just can't. But I am getting it a lot more even, except for this section, which sucks. I don't know why. What changed? It feels like every time I stop to try and fix an issue, it gets too thin, and then I have to fix it. And then I'm good for a while, and then there's a random issue, and then I stop to fix it, and it gets bad again. I don't really know if that's actually true or what. I'm actually struggling to spin this one now, of course. I mean, when I say struggling, it's about 100 times better than my previous struggling to spin, but it's certainly causing some problems. But we're getting there. Not a failure on every weight thing I'm processing today, then. Yeah, pretty much. I would not, like, if you had asked me before I did any of this, I would have said, obviously, I'm going to successfully press tofu because I've done that hundreds of times and it's easy. And I'm going to totally fail at processing and spinning cotton because that's hard and I suck at it. It's the exact opposite is what has actually occurred. Very surprising. Chaff comes to mind, but I don't know if it's right. I mean, in this case, it's definitely not, but it is. I do call it chaff when I'm talking about flax most of the time. But in this case, there's no chaff to be had. All of the VM, I mean, like maybe there's a tiny bit I've found so far, but almost all of the VM is either bits of seed or bits of the outer hull of the seed, neither of which is chaff, I think. Technically, it's germ or it's seeds, if I have my seeds terminology correct. But neither of those really have the right ring to them. I think every single one that I've done so far, there have been difficult sections and easy sections, and this one is not any different. Like I definitely have difficult sections and easy sections, but I am a little more successful at getting it thick. Not at the moment, because every time I say that, I mess it up, but I've had some sections that were actually as thick as I wanted them to be. So that seems good. But then I've also had some sections that got way too thin, which I didn't have with the other two. So, I mean, obviously, I am not yet practiced enough to really do any like consistent side-by-side comparisons. I could do this with wool no problem and get it, not consistent necessarily, but a lot better. But with cotton, I'm too new to, like, I can't control for myself. I can control for how much I process it, obviously, but I can't control for my own inconsistencies. And moment my inconsistencies, like the range of how inconsistent it is and how much I mess up, varies pretty wide. And so that's why I need to keep doing the tests of basically how many passes I've done until I can get a consistent result. Because until then, I won't really know. Just one test isn't enough to actually say anything. If that makes sense. But I'm definitely having lots of thin spots in this one, which is the 3-pass one. So we'll try the 9-pass one, and we'll see if I'm just like straight up tripping or not. It's quite possible. But I think it's valuable to know either way, because if it turns out that 9 is actually much more of anything, like if it's easier, if it's more difficult, if it is actively detrimental, like that's all stuff I want to know. That will certainly inform what I'm doing. Like there might be times where I would actually have a decent reason for trying to card it 9 times. For example, once I dye it, if I do end up dyeing any of it as cotton, or not as cotton, as fiber, as opposed to as yarn, then I may well encounter bits that need significant amounts of processing to fluff back up again. Because cotton really like shrinks in on itself, or like almost shrivels up in the dye pot. Or at least it has for me so far. I'm hoping it doesn't always do that, and then when that happens, it takes more time and more passes to open it up again. So if I find out that more passes equals scrap, then that would be a good reason to not dye it as fiber, because all of it would be a worse prep for more work. So yeah. You think you'd say debris or probably stuff? Debris is pretty good. Stuff is decent, but it lacks a bit of specificity. That said, I was thinking bits, because they are little bits, but again, lacking specificity. Debris is probably the best one, because that's pretty clear that it's something in there that you don't want to be in there, and also it accurately conveys that it's something that's been broken up, or at least to me, debris has a very strong connotation of something that's been broken and destroyed, and now you're dealing with the bits that are left. That is very true of the seed pods. I'm dealing with the little bits that are left. Yeah, debris I like. I think I'll call it that. Thank you. Oh my God. Would you believe it? But the tofu is somehow still managed, like it's messing itself up, and I'm not even doing anything to it anymore. But it's getting worse. This is insane. This is like some kind of fucked up picture of Dorian Gray type situation. I've managed to put all of my problems on this poor fucked up piece of tofu. But my cotton spinning is going great. So at least there's that. There's a price we pay for everything, I guess. Also, shockingly, I've already been spinning for, I'm streaming rather. I've already been streaming for 1 hour and 40 minutes. I don't have all night, as much as I would love to sit here on stream and spin for the rest of the night, and I really would. I don't have that kind of time, so I'll probably try and go to about 2 hours. What time is it right now? Oh, it's 8 o'clock. Yeah, I have to make dinner too. Dinner/lunch for tomorrow. So I think I'm gonna go to 2 hours, and then tragically we gotta cut it there. But I am definitely going to be doing this tomorrow at the same time, because it's great. So we got about 20 minutes, and then yeah, then I'll call it. I think that should be more than enough time to spin the 9-pass one as well. And then I want to quickly ply it. And we're going to chain ply it so that I can get it, like, so that I'm not messing it up, you know, like, messing is the wrong word. I want to be able to see the progression, if there is any, from one end to the other. That's what I mean. So we're going to chain ply it as soon as I'm done with this fourth one. The fourth, maybe it's 5, I don't know. Either way. While I'm at it, another thing I clearly need to test is whether drafting actually, like, I don't know, drafting's not the right word, but whether pulling on it while I am rolling it up into it, whether that has the effect that I think it has, which I came to that conclusion by doing it many times, but that doesn't mean I'm right. And I'm curious whether drafting or pulling on it a ton makes it a lot better, or whether it's like there's a threshold of pull on it this much, you'll get a good result, but pull on it too much and you'll get a bad result. I don't know. So that's another thing I want to test. If it turns out that I don't need to pull on it at all, I want to know that because it would be a lot easier if I didn't have to. I'm going to refrain from giving any observations until maybe a little bit farther, because I have been speaking too soon, and then I think jinxing myself, maybe. I'm a very strong believer in the verbal jinx because I jinx myself all the time, so I see how it goes. Presumably I need to cook the tofu. Yeah, that's that is exact. Don't put that on processed tofu. It's accurate. Don't paint that on processed tofu. It's yeah. I definitely, like, dinner is not going to be quick to make either. I'm making brown rice and tofu, which is the main thing I eat anyway. And the brown rice, I mean, it's soaking right now, but it's only been soaking for 2 hours. I don't really know if that actually makes it cook that much faster, soaking it for 2 hours. Like, soaking it 10 hours definitely does, but I don't usually soak my rice. I have no idea why I did it this time. Yeah, so that's going to be about an hour. The tofu doesn't take too long to cook. I came up with a decent method of cooking it that I like, that works pretty well for me, and it's fairly fast. So, but you know, the rice. If I had a brain, I would have turned on the rice cooker when I got up to try and fail to fix the tofu situation. But I don't have a brain, so I didn't do that. Yeah, they are long to cook, especially in my rice cooker, which I will refrain from saying bad things about because I do appreciate it. But I'm starting to think that it is a very, no, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, it definitely takes longer than just boiling it on the stove. The only reason I do it is because I can just set it, like put it on, and then, you know, go do something else for an hour and not think about it at all. Whereas if you cook it on the stove, there's a little bit more micromanaging required. And when I'm done with this, I kind of just want to go play Minecraft. I don't want to micromanage rice. So that's really the only reason that I use it. And it's a lot easier to clean also. It doesn't, like, it never burns in the rice cooker, but it usually sticks to the bottom at least a little bit in the pot. And I'm pretty sure it's just because the inside of the rice cooker is Teflon, but oh well. I've seen some like fancy rice cookers, and also I do want to like complain loudly that my ex-fiance who is Indian, and therefore one makes a fuck ton of rice, and two has access to some really nice pressure cookers that are very expensive in the States and apparently like absolutely everywhere in India. Um, when he made rice, it took like 5 fucking minutes for white rice, but still like 5 minutes if that to cook. Whereas if I cook white rice on the stove or in the pressure cooker or whatever, wherever, not the pressure cooker, in the rice cooker, it's like minimum 30. I know some of that is probably the fact that we're undoubtedly cooking different rices, but like, come on, where's my pressure cooker? I don't think I'd use one if I had one because they do scare me. Um, and they seem a little physically intensive to open and close, but if I could have rice in 5 minutes, I would be happy. And I can't. Anyway, complaining about my rice cooker is done now. Okay, so thoughts on this pudding. I don't know if I'm actually finding a difference. Like, there was a huge difference between the first 9 passes that I did and the first one with 3 passes that I did. But I don't necessarily think anymore that it was those 9 passes. I don't know what it was, but yeah, this one also had 9 passes, and it's fine. If anything, it feels slightly better than the one I just did, which only had 3. I think I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm not good enough at spinning cotton to really be able to do these tests. Even if I do a lot of them, I don't think that's going to tell me anything until I actually get better. I'll probably keep doing them because they're entertaining, to me at least, hopefully also to you. But like functionally, this is the best one yet. Now that I said that, I'm sure it will get terrible. But yeah, so far it's the best one yet. By a lot. And I don't think it's because I carded it 9 times. I don't know why, but I don't think it's that. Now, I didn't roll it up tightly. That's one thing I want to remember, is this one was really loosely rolled up, comparatively. Like I would certainly call this very tightly rolled if it were wool, but compared to how I've been rolling the other ones. You're getting sleepy. Good night. I hope you have a good one. Thank you for hanging out and for giving me a good word for VM and cotton. I think I will probably be mostly calling it debris from now on. I'll catch you next time. Have a good night. More practice too. Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be. Like more practice carding and more practice spinning. It's really like that must have the biggest impact so far at the moment. And once I get a bit better, then it will stop being the overwhelming difference. And maybe I'll be able to actually figure it out. See, now it's going thin right at the end. And it's like, is that because I've changed up how I'm treadling or how I'm drifting? Is it because the prep is different here? I don't know. I have no idea. Oh, it's getting way thinner. Why? It was so good. Okay. Now, the big question is this going to be incredibly woefully underspun and underplied? Like my variegated, not variegated, like my barber pole and stripey green and white one. I really hope not. I feel like I'm doing better this time about getting it more twist. And if I do a plyback test, it looks decent. So I'm hopeful this will actually be a nice skein of yarn. But I also think realistically, nice skein of cotton yarn, of thick cotton yarn, is probably too much to ask for. So, you know, we'll see, but fingers crossed. I'm also curious if I'm gonna run into, what's the word? Like twist problems, active twist problems, when I try and chain fly this. I hope not, because I think chain flying is really the thing that makes the most sense in this situation. Because if I can tell where I went from like one puni to the next, that would be really interesting. And this is the only way I'm gonna find out. So we're gonna try it. And I'm just gonna hope that it isn't awful. Okay. We are done spinning those punis. This is the nicest thick cotton I have yet, by far. And I think you can tell, or at least I can tell, I think, that, let me turn on the light, hang on, that I got thicker as I went, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, and that didn't help at all. Never mind, I'm gonna turn the light back off. But yeah, so this is the end I started at, and visually, it's definitely thicker. I'm sorry, it's definitely thinner. That's another reason I can't stream all night, is that I'll get worse and worse with words as time goes on. All right, I'm gonna try. Oh, I guess I should remove it from the flyer. I'm gonna see if I can maybe just chain it as I go, because that is faster, for me at least. But if I can't and I have to chain it into a fly ball first, I will do that, because I know that this, like that problem with active twist, can be mitigated just by letting it rest. And I'm not really bothered by the idea of needing to rest, you know, all the future cotton that I spin. Oh, this feels really, really under twisted. Like it's super soft, which worries me. It's super, super soft and kind of lofty, but it's also really nice. And I think this is going to be fine. It's not fighting me very much at all, so that's good. Because, like, while usually I won't care, in this particular situation, I want to make dinner and play Minecraft. And also my throat hurts, so there's that as well. So I want to get this done in the time frame that I said I would. I am going to finish this, though. I'm not. We're almost at 2 hours right now. I'm not going to stop with it partly finished, because that would bother me all night. And I think, you know, you guys have been watching me spin this long enough that you deserve to see the conclusion of this skein. So, okay. I'm not sure why I did it that way. But let's get this on the bobbin. I think I am safe to move it to the middle whorl for this, by the way. Well, I don't know. I guess if I'm chaining as I go, maybe not. I'll give it a try on middle whorl if I can. There we go. Okay. So we're applying it clockwise, which is the opposite of how I would normally apply wool, but it is exactly how I normally apply cotton. Okay. This is what I get for not using a leader. Is this right? It looks kind of weird. It is right. But it really looks weird. It almost looks like I'm trying to ply it the same way that I spun it, which I'm definitely not. That's odd. I think it's all in my head, though, probably. All right, we'll give it another bit of twist so it carries over. And then my ends do, though. They're lost. Lost forever. Okay. I'm really glad that I decided to come back to cotton, because I think I had fully given up at one point, and I just sort of randomly decided to try it again. I think like a year ago, and it was like I decided to try and spin it as thin as I possibly could, and I think that is what actually got me somewhere helpful, because spinning it thinner is a lot easier. I mean, like, you know, there's definitely a limit to that. Once you get to the part where you're trying to spin it like thread, it gets difficult again. But like, thinner is definitely easier. It wants to be thinner than it wants to be thicker, you know. Okay, go this way. It doesn't look super under twisted, I think. I don't know though. I really don't know. Right, I have to actually keep an eye on it while I apply it. You know, I don't think I need the faster whorl. I really don't. Oh, it's this way. Because this is like, I can't actually keep up with the speed. So yeah, we'll keep it on the biggest whorl, which is also what I signed all along. There we go. I feel like every time I go to chain ply, I start out trying to do it with my hands facing up, and it always is terrible. And then at some point, I instinctively switch to doing it with my hands facing down, and it instantly is so much easier. Like, I do that every single time. By the way, if you're wondering about the texture of this yarn, it is like a fucking cloud. It's so nice and so soft. I'm really curious how it's gonna wear. I hope it's pretty durable, because if it is, this is gonna be like the nicest blanket ever. Also, as a 3-ply, this is like worsted weight currently. So that's pretty damn good. If I can get worsted weight for a blanket, like that's typically the weight of the yarn that I use for my summer blankets. It's worsted. And I think that if I could get worsted for 20 pounds, or 20 pounds, good God, for 10 pounds, I think that one, I wouldn't spend forever trying to spin it, and two, I wouldn't spend forever trying to knit it, and three, I think it's actually doable. It's squeaking again. Not with the squeaking. I just need to move it slightly farther away from my foot. Let's see if that helps. Nope. I don't really want to be I'm trying to sit right now while I'm so quickly. This like comfort, and that Cormo is probably the nicest fiber I've ever worked with in that regard. So I'm thrilled. This is clearly some pretty damn good Gen cotton. Quite glad I bought it. I do wish it was longer still, because I think I'd have a much easier time like actually making the things if it was. Also, I'm pretty sure the reason that I'm getting so much of the fiber flying around and up my nose is because it's so small. Because like I was looking at the little bits floating around, and they're about as long as cottonwood is, which is quite short. Like they reminded me heavily of cottonwood. So I think that's the culprit, unfortunately. Like I can wear a mask while I do this, while I card it. That's not the issue really, it getting up my nose. It's the fact that I already sweep too often, and I don't want to have to sweep even more. I've gotten down to the very last black, and I can tell because it's quite a bit thinner. You were getting a ton of cotton floof in your face when you were spinning it too. I mean, I have to say, I'm not actually getting it in my face when I spin it, just when I'm carding it. Spinning it, I'm not getting any in my face at all. Although, if I remember correctly, you're spinning cotton top, and I see how you would get it the other way around with that prep. Because obviously you're not, it's already prepped, but it's also, I don't know, cotton top it doesn't like to stay together anywhere near as much as a cotton puni, in my experience. That does make sense. And either way, it's annoying. It's very annoying. Okay. This is the first thick cotton that I think I'm actually happy with, and I am so happy with it. I haven't even taken off the bobbin yet, and I'm so happy with it. I already know. Can you tell how even it is? Like, it's not even that even, but for me, it's so even. And it's so thick, and it actually looks, there are bits where it's definitely underspun and underplied, but for the most part, it looks decently plied. Yeah. If this were wool, I'd be like, job well done, it's fine. But as cotton, I am over the moon. Like, the bar is very low for me, for good cotton. Okay, so the fact that not only have I cleared it, but I've reached the part where I'd be, decently happy with myself if it were wool, that is a big improvement from the last time. Massive. Sounds right. It does just kind of fall apart. Yeah, it really does. I hate that about cotton top or cotton roving. That's what I started spinning cotton on, and I had the hardest fucking time. It pretty much made me give up, all the way up until I finally tried like carding it on my wool cards. Even carding it, like when I was new enough, trying to card it on cotton cards, because cotton was just so new to me at the time, I still managed to mess that up. So I needed like more experience in many ways for the cotton to actually finally click on me. So I'm just going to wind this as a 1 yard skein, i.e. using only 2 of the bars of the nitty knotty. You can skein, i.e. using only 2 of the bars of the nitty knotty. You can cut your skein size perfectly in half, at least as far as I can tell. You can cut it perfectly in half by only winding it around 2 of the bars rather than 1. And it's a 2 yard nitty knotty, so okay. I think this is about 20 yards, so it's, oh no, I've only wound 10 yards, or I've only wound half of it, so it's probably like 10 yards. So a very small amount for all that work, if so. But I think that's always true of something that you chain plied. It always ends up so much less when it's 3 or 4 plied. 4 plying is even worse, obviously. Okay, now I want to, well, if I can finish tying this knot. Now I want to check the yardage, and then I'll pop it off and show you. 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. It is 15 yards, give or take. And here's what it looks like. Let me actually skein it up. It's so soft. I'm so pleased. Everything about this spinning session has gone super well. It's always really nice because sometimes it goes super badly, like all of it. For example, the time that I spilled coconut water everywhere after spinning the worst cotton skein known to man. Look at that. It's so pretty. I'll take some pictures and post them on my blog once I'm all done, because I know that the webcam quality is quite bad and you're never actually going to be able to see the details. But yeah, 15 yards, and I'm so happy with it compared to all the other cottons so far. I'm so happy with it. All right, we are at 2 hours and 6 minutes, so that actually worked out pretty well. I'm gonna call it a night, and I will be back again tomorrow at the same time. So 6 p.m. Pacific Standard or 1 a.m. GMT. That's really the only time that works for me, given when I get off work. So I'm glad it worked enough for those of you who showed up to be able to show up. So thank you for joining me. This was a very enjoyable spinning session, very much due to the company. So I hope you come back again whenever you're able to and feel like it. And yeah, good night. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for watching the stream and for participating as well. Can't thank you enough for everybody who participates. Definitely adds a lot to the stream and a lot of enjoyment as well. So, all right, I'll stop nattering and go deal with my stuck up trapezoidal tofu. Good night.